Welcome back to Pop Politics. It's our 1 year anniversary.
It is. It's been a whole year.
It's been a whole year, exactly to the day, because we waited an extra day to record, but it's been 1 year since we started doing this. Also, that means that it's been 1 year of the Trump presidency, because we recorded our very first episode the night before his inauguration. So.
And it's weird to look back and think that it's been a whole year.
I know. A whole year of almost every week getting together and talking about politics and pop culture.
It's crazy.
When we weren't on vacations or
busy.
other things.
You know.
So, yeah. Okay, well, we'll jump right in. We're going to do our... Really, this is a soapbox at the very beginning of the episode.
Kind of.
It's kind of a soapbox. So there's this pop culture trend going around where teenagers, and from what I understand, it's like teenagers from the ages of like 12 to 19, are doing a really stupid thing. And the really stupid thing is that they're basically daring each other. It's this like, it's in the same way, it's the Tide Pod Challenge is what they're calling it, which means that they bite into Tide laundry pods that are laundry detergent and therefore not for you to eat, but to clean your clothes with. And then they post the video on Instagram or YouTube. Yeah.
I'm officially dubbing this the stupidest trend of 2018.
Yeah.
I know we're only like 3 weeks in, but
it is.
I'm officially calling it the dumbest trend of the year. And I know I feel dumb already saying something like crowning it the blank of the year.
I know, but it really is so far. The thing, I was listening to a BBC podcast this morning, and I don't remember these numbers exactly, and I can't find an article that corresponds to it. But they were saying that in the United States, there have been more accidental poisonings in the first 3 weeks of 2018 than there were in 2016 and 2017 in total.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like, people... And there have been deaths from this, too, because you're literally poisoning yourself. And I don't know what would make you think. Like, these Tide Pods don't, like... They have a funny texture. I use them for my own laundry. Like, they have a funny texture, and so you kind of get curious about them. But who is dumb enough to like actually eat them? And it's up to 19-year-olds, and I'm like, dude, for real.
I don't know. I know some pretty dumb high schoolers.
I know, but
as I'm filling this out,
I know
kids who would do it.
I know, but still, okay. But I know a 19-year-old who once upon a time was like, I wonder what would happen if you like sprayed air. What did he do? Oh, they had a lighter and like air freshener, and they decided to spray the air freshener through the lighter, and I was like,
Yep.
Okay, you were dumb, but it's cool.
If you've been watching the Tide social media accounts, specifically their Twitter, they're basically like saying like, don't do this is poison, and like that's all they've been churning out. Like their Twitter feed has been like
nothing but
full steam. This is stupid.
You
Don't
should
do it.
Stop. Yeah, and I guess that not just them, but oh shoot, what am I thinking of? Oh, YouTube has been actively taking down the videos now, so that's a good thing.
They have. Yeah, social media sites are taking them down as dangerous under dangerous context.
It's and it's kind of like slowing down just because people are pointing out that this is a really stupid thing, that you could really die from this. And I just don't know, like, I don't understand the logic of, this is laundry detergent, we use it, it's a really powerful soap.
Yeah, but can you like explain any pop culture internet trend? Like, they're just simply unexplainable.
I know, but usually they don't lead to death and poisoning and whatever else.
Yeah.
Okay, well, moving on. People are stupid. Moving on. So, the other thing we were talking about last month, the Hamill drops. They had the Ben Franklin song, which, by the way, I'm still waiting for a clean version of, because I tried to listen to the original version, and oh my gosh, so much profanity.
I thought they said they were going to do a clean version.
I thought so too, but I never could find one.
Oh.
Well, I haven't checked back in a little while, so there's that too. But this month they dropped a video that is actually a video. The song it's a music video of one of the songs from the mixtape, and it's I Wrote My Way Out, and it really is about immigrants. And it's really cool. It's shot starkly in black and white, and there are only minorities in it. And it's actually a really beautifully filmed video. I really enjoyed it. It's worth watching, and watching it, and I really enjoyed Lin-Manuel Miranda's hat in it. Took me forever. I was like watching the whole thing, going, "What the heck is on his hat?"
She was obsessing over the hat.
What? I can't read the hat. What is going on? Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. So next thing. So 2018 marks the 20th anniversary of Scholastic publishing the Harry Potter books in the United States. And so similar to what Bloomsbury did last year for the UK 20th anniversary, they're releasing new books. But what they're doing, instead of how Bloomsbury is like doing special editions of each book and the house editions, Bloomsbury or Scholastic has commissioned an artist to just do new covers for all 7 books, and they're just going to release them all at once and be done with it.
Yeah, because Bloomsbury, if you remember, did house editions for each of the first ones, and they've announced that they're going to do that for each of the subsequent editions the year they were published.
Oh.
I haven't actually looked at the news release, so I don't.
This year I know they're doing Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, right.
So, but it'll be
maybe they're doing one every year, because I don't think Chamber of Secrets came out a year after.
Oh,
right?
Probably not.
That's what I'm thinking.
But what's interesting is Scholastic just barely did like a re-release of the Harry Potter series with a new cover. You know, the ones where like all the spines come together and it makes Hogwarts the castle?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like those are pretty new.
And isn't Scholastic doing the illustrated versions? Isn't that Scholastic?
Is that Scholastic?
I don't know. You have them over there.
I have the first 2. Let me see. Yeah, it is Scholastic.
Yeah, okay. So, they're doing a lot of things, so I guess they just felt like they needed to jump on the bandwagon.
Well, people will buy them, so...
That's true.
Let's be honest, it's all about
I may or may not own the house version. My house version.
That'd be cool. Anyways, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Okay, so then, moving on. We're just whizzing through today. Moving on to the movie scene. This week I saw the post. It was amazing. We're going to talk about it next week because Stu and Emily are going to see it. Yeah. So hold tight for that conversation. But in the meantime, so Black Panther, which I don't know if I've talked about how I'm totally obsessed with T'Challa. I think he is attractive. Also, he is very, very good at what he does. T'Challa is the Black Panther. He's the leader of Wakanda, the imaginary state in Africa where this takes place, where Black Panther's from. The tickets went on sale last Monday, and on Tuesday my friends and I bought tickets and we're going opening night, and nice. It broke a record actually. So let me find it. So the movie, it broke Fandango's pre-sale ticket record for the Marvel Cinematic Universe films in the first 24 hours. It broke Captain America Civil War's previous record. So that's pretty exciting. I'm really excited for this movie.
You know, I think Black Panther looks awesome and I want to go see it, but I'm a little surprised it broke the records. Because this is like the first outing for Black Panther. Mm-hmm. Like
Besides Civil
War, but like
and
that
like
was
a sneak peek. No, that's at the end of Civil War.
That wasn't really his movie. So
right.
Like Captain America Civil War makes sense because like Captain America was established, people knew the character, knew like right. the characters. So it's surprising that there's so much hype for this movie, whereas like you don't know any of the characters besides Black Panther.
Right. Have you seen the trailer for it? The first trailer for it?
Yes, it looked really good.
Yeah, because I watched that and didn't like the thing about this trailer, and it did its job extremely well because I was kind of like, oh, whatever, Black Panther, right? No, I watched the trailer and was like, oh my goodness. Like, I need to see this movie, and it's the movie I didn't know I needed. And I think that's the other thing is that, and this leads me to the other point I wanted to make with this movie, is that we're seeing diversity in superheroes, and that's making a difference. Mm-hmm. Like, Wonder Woman was one of the top 3 movies last year because it was a diverse superhero. You then have Black Panther, which is making his rising star, and he's a diverse superhero, and they're having their moment on the grand stage, and I think that that's a good thing because we've had most of the superheroes we know and love are straight white, usually American men, and now we're kind of getting this. We're shifting, and superheroes are starting to reflect not just the white population, but the the white male specifically population, but the different racial boundaries, the different we're just starting to see a whole lot more representation in superheroes, and so I think that's one of the reasons why Black Panther is doing so well and why it hit this record. Plus, also, it looks really good. And then, so the other thing that this coincided with is that the CW is releasing. CW is the same network that does like Flash and Arrow and Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow. They're releasing a new superhero called Black Lightning, and he is an African American hero, and I think I remember reading that he doesn't like. Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna read this little clip from this article. It revolves around Jefferson Pierce, a black middle-aged educator who must resurrect his superpowers to protect his family and community. So basically, like, this is going to be very interesting where this guy doesn't want to use his superpowers, but yet he needs to for the safety of the people around him. And so that's going to be... that. I'm excited to see that.
Is it going to be in the Arrowverse, in the same universe as the other CW shows?
I don't know. I don't remember reading that.
Because that's the cool thing about the CW shows is they're all in the same universe, which they call the Arrowverse, and then they can do the big crossovers where all the characters from all the movies are in this big interconnected storyline. It's unique to CW. So it'll be interesting if they introduce him.
They don't say in this article, so I don't know. It is a CNN article, so maybe we'll find out. But I think that this is an exciting moment where we're starting to see diversity in heroes, and I think that's important. So, okay, moving on. This is yours.
Okay, yes. So, on Tuesday, the Oscar nominations will be announced. And as you may or may not know, the Oscar nominations are a huge... they're a huge part of Hollywood. They're the biggest show in town, and it really reflects, power and influence and kind of where we're at as a culture in our movies in Hollywood and in America, because the Oscars really reflect, always... What am I trying to say here? They always reflect, where we're at in society and culture. And they are always so memorable, and so the Oscars they're more of record than the Golden Globes or the SAG Awards. And so, but some interesting tidbits, a lot of talk has been going around at the Golden Globes, how Greta Gerwig was snubbed from a Best Director nomination. A lot of people are wondering if that will happen at the Oscars as well, and I found an interesting tidbit. So this year is the 90th iteration of the Oscars. So they've been going this will be their 90th year handing out awards. Right. So of the previous 89 award ceremonies, 85 of them had an all-male Best Director nominee field. So only 4 years that the Oscars have handed out awards has had at least one female director nominee. Which is pretty shocking when you think about, that's quite the disparity. And so people are wondering if Greta Gerwig will be nominated for Lady Bird, and what this means with the whole Me Too and Time's Up movement.
And also Patty Jenkins for Wonder Woman.
Yeah, actually, I have seen some chatter about her.
So the thing is that's really fascinating about this is
Forgot about her.
Well, do we talk about this with the Golden Globes discussion where we talked about how there was an all-male field of directors, and so women like Greta Gerwig, who directed this phenomenal film Lady Bird, I haven't seen it, but I hear good things, and Patty Jenkins, who wowed us all with Wonder Woman, where were they as part of this? I mean, there's some phenomenal female directors, and they're kind of left out of this buzz. And so what do you do with that? How do you deal with that?
And also, there's some questions on how the Oscars will handle the Me Too and Time's Up, and the national reckoning for sexual harassment and abuse.
Right.
Because the Golden Globes kind of that was the main story behind the Golden Globes, is most of the actresses and a lot of the actors wore black, and of course there was a stirring speech from Oprah.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how the Oscars handle it, because traditionally the Golden Globes are like the crazy cousin to the Oscars. The Oscars are like the austere, buttoned up, like very proper, very professional, whereas the Golden Globes, like everyone's drunk and like it's crazy and you can do and say whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the Golden Globes really took a more sober and directed approach this year because of all that stuff, and so it'll be interesting to see if and how the Oscars differ in their tone and their approach this year.
Right.
So next week we'll talk about the nominations and see if there's any surprises, any snubs, etc.
Yeah.
So, okay, we can move on.
All right.
So, I don't know if you've seen online, a lot of people are posting
I've
this.
seen.
This is the Google Arts and Culture app. And among other things, first I would recommend looking around. They have tons of cool exhibits and things on there about art and culture, and it's really cool. Go check it out.
They'll teach you like about the art, so you can walk through a gallery and pick on the art pieces.
I was
and it'll give
reading
really cool information.
Special on there about Vincent van Gogh, and like I can't remember, but it like had all these. It was a really cool article on him. But the coolest thing, and this is what's got popular, is you can take a selfie, and then it tells you what
art piece you resemble.
What famous art piece you most resemble.
Right.
And it is quite funny. Mine was... Let me see if I can find it. All of mine, every time I did it, like, most of the matches it told me were, like, young boys.
Right. I think it matches your facial structure, but... So, because I kept getting, like, young
mine.
peasant... Oh, yeah, wow, that's a baby.
Mine, yeah.
The Thief of Hearts?
It's called The Thief of Hearts. It's... like a young, it's like a toddler, a boy toddler, and then another one of mine was a baby. I'm like, does this thing think I have a baby face or what? It was quite funny. And then Emily did hers, and hers was like an old lady. Told her.
Portrait of Madame Bohe.
Yeah.
That's delightful.
So it was just funny that Emily got an old lady and I got like a baby boy.
I kept getting like peasant with a flute, and I was not happy with that. And so finally I got a portrait of Henry Clay and Helen Frick, and it compared me to Helen Frick, not Henry Clay. So, yeah, it's kind of fun though to see so people were posting them all over Twitter, and it was just kind of fun to see what people got.
So if you want a good laugh and want to culture yourself, download the Google Arts and Culture app.
Yeah, and scroll down and it'll tell you where to take a selfie.
Okay, the last thing on our list is another entry in the weird celebrity baby names category. Because we all love talking about weird celebrity baby names, right? That's what I thought. So this one is from, of course, the West family, Kim and Kanye. And, oh, stop, don't play. This is their third child. They just had a baby girl, and they named her Chicago. As in, yes, the city in Illinois.
I don't get that.
So her name is Chicago West. And I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. But you know, it totally keeps in line with the other children they have. There's, of course, North as a Northwest. And their second child they named Saint.
I don't, yeah. There's no explanation for that. So the poor child will be Chicago West for the rest of her life, and not the rest of her life, but how do you like is there? I don't understand why you would. We were talking about this earlier, but I don't understand why you would make their name. My name is odd, right? But why would you choose a name that's so just plain weird? You could choose a name like Emily West or Hannah West or Sarah West, and it wouldn't be it obviously wouldn't be Kim and Kanye worthy. Well, Kim is a pretty normal name, but it wouldn't be teased.
Maybe
it wouldn't allow them to be teased.
Maybe that's why Kim is doing that, because she has such a generic name, and there's probably a million Kims that she's trying to have her children stand out.
Okay, but Chicago is not going to stand out now that she's named her child that. You know what I mean?
Well.
And
Kanye is originally from Chicago, by the way. So
I guess that makes sense.
That could factor in. But, I have long stopped trying to explain why celebrities name their babies weird names, because you just can't. I mean, I have no idea what they're thinking. I cannot relate in any way, shape, or form to the lifestyle that they lead. So I've just given up on trying to explain why they name their babies with weird names. I just recognize it for what it is and be like, okay,
that's fine.
Cool.
You do
Good
you.
for you.
Yeah.
So
all right.
I'm gonna just not even.
So let's go from trying to explain that logic to trying to explain another kind of logic which we can't explain, which is in the politics/pop culture section. So for the last 2 weeks, Donald Trump has been promising to host the Fake News Awards, and the late show hosts have dubbed these the Fakies.
And they've, released full-scale, Oscar for your consideration ads, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's been great. So Trump pushed it from a week ago Monday to this Wednesday, and then on Wednesday I'm eagerly awaiting these Fake News Awards. I've been so sarcastic all over Twitter about this, just because I want to know what he's gonna say, and I also want to know that I am still frequenting the appropriate news sources, because if he thinks it's fake, then they're doing stuff that's exposing things that he feels genuinely concerned about. And that's my logic anyway. That doesn't have to be your logic. So he released them on Wednesday, and he put them on the GOP website. And I went to my friend sent me the link. It said finally, and we went to the link, and we got a 404.
It got so much traffic that it crashed.
I don't think that's the case.
Really? That's what I saw.
I don't think it's the traffic that did it. I think it was a poorly created page.
Okay.
That had problems with the traffic as well. Anyway, so point of the story is that they were not prepared. And then, the top spot went to a New York Times reporter who said that the economy was going to crash in the Trump presidency.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, okay.
Hold up.
I'm pausing.
Kate, the difference, though, I'm trying to find the tweet. I'm trying to get to it. But
Trump's tweet?
Well, I'm on the GOP's page, but what day was it?
It was Wednesday. It was
Oh, crap. I'm too far away.
The 17th.
Oh, no. They pinned it. I'm stupid. Oh, wait, no, they didn't. I can't find it. Okay, I'm not going to be able to find it. But the first... So, two things on this. They weren't really awards. There weren't categories, and there weren't
No, he just released.
It was just a laundry list of
of the stories
of things he didn't like.
Yeah, of the stories he hasn't liked the most this year.
And what they were, though, is most of them were stories that had some incorrect information on them that the news organization quickly issued a correction for. And so, of course, there was the whole Brian Ross on ABC News report, blah blah blah. But
the number one spot, actually,
the number one was an opinion writer in the New York Times who conjectured that the markets would not recover after Trump was elected and inaugurated as president. Which, for the record, an opinion piece is just that. It's opinion.
It's an opinion piece.
It wasn't trying to state it as a fact. He was writing it as an opinion piece. So you can't claim it was fake, because do you know how many opinion pieces are written every year, every week? I mean, and they're all that. They're opinion. So that really bugged me that he was opinion pieces are different because they're not trying to be news pieces.
Yeah, but see, the thing about the Fake News Awards was that it was Trump saying, "Look, this is what I hated the most this year," and so he doesn't draw the line between opinion and actual news story, because it painted him in a bad light and it made him angry. And some of those are like from the election, and he's still angry about them and was able to find them. Anyway, so we were talking about this, and then they sent out an email to their email blast, and we're like, you guys pick the winners or whatever. And we were like, this is not what Donald Trump, his staff, the White House, the GOP, the RNC, nobody should be spending time on this. This is an absolute waste of time. So we can't explain the logic behind that one either.
No, we cannot.
Okay, moving on, because Yeah.
This is a little bit more exciting piece of news that happened. So we talked about last time how North Korea agreed to send a team to the Winter Olympics next month.
Right.
Now it came out that North and South Korea are going to march together at the opening ceremony as one team under one flag, under a Korea flag.
So it's a white flag with the Korean peninsula on it. It's the unified Korea flag, which
it's quite
basically cool. The North definitely wants that. They want a unified Korea, and South generally thinks about it that way, but as the years have gone on, they're not sure how it can happen anymore to have a unified Korea. So in the end, like, both parties want a unified Korea. So
under their control.
Under their control.
Naturally.
So there's that.
But it's cool. I love this because this is exactly what the Olympics are all about. It's all about international unity, coming together through sport, and, you know, leaving all the political and geographical considerations aside, and, you know, just coming together for the benefit of the world, right?
Yeah.
And in addition to marching together, they are going to field a joint women's hockey team.
Which I don't know how the logistics of that are going to work. Like, because you know South Korea had a full ice hockey team, and now they're like,
I'm sure they did.
They had to bump a few people, I'm sure.
Yeah. So someone on Facebook was like, yeah, this is cool that they're sending a team and everything, but, like, how good are their athletes really?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, their ice skaters, their ice skating team,
they do have a pairs figure skating
qualify.
Team that is pretty good. But I'm like, you know, does it really matter how good their athletes do? No. It's the principle of it. It's the fact that they're willing to come together on an international stage and, like, be open and send people.
Right.
Because this is a very reclusive regime. They crack down. Nobody can leave the country without the government's permission. And they are spies everywhere.
They're called the Hermit Kingdom for a reason.
So the fact that they're willing to come to South Korea, of all places, their mortal enemy across the peninsula, is huge. And South Korea and the U.S. is hoping that this momentum will lead to more talks about their nuclear program.
Right. In addition to this, they're sending a 140-piece orchestra. Not sure what they're going to do.
And, like, a cheerleading squad.
And, like, 200 some odd cheerleaders.
Yeah, they're sending a lot of people.
Right. So, in the short term, this hopefully means that North Korea won't, like, bomb South Korea during the
That's the thinking behind it.
Right.
They won't do anything to antagonize
and as Stu
the games.
said, they're hoping that this will lead to increased talks between North Korea. That's what I was trying to say. Between the two, and then widen between two other countries who are trying to mitigate the nuclear concern. Okay, moving on. This one's yours because I haven't read the story yet.
Okay. Now, I am not going to do this story 100% justice, and I would point you to other news reports, specifically the New York Times, because they went all in on this.
Yeah.
But a CIA officer has been arrested, and he is accused of being a possible spy for China. And from what I can gather is they found a notebook with classified information on it, or in it. It's not a computer. In it, not on it. And it had, like, identifying information of CIA assets inside China. It's like names, phone numbers, addresses, like stuff you do not want people to find out about your assets. And there's a whole thing about, and this is where I point you to the New York Times article, they, like, raided searched a hotel room he was in to, like, let him fly back to Hong Kong. And then, like, the FBI has been investigating this for a while, and they just barely arrested him now. And this is because, I don't know if you heard this, Brigitte, or anyone else out there, but, like, the CIA's operations in China have been crippled lately.
Right.
Because, like,
China keeps finding their
all
assets.
Their assets have been, like, disappearing, thrown in jail, probably presumed dead. And they're thinking that this CIA officer is the connection to
Right,
that.
yeah. There have been a lot of crackdowns I think it's in the last year or so, of CIA, and I think it's both assets and officers, undercover officers. But I'm not positive. That's a fact check that we need to make in China, but it has been. They think it is tied to
Yeah, so go read the New York
This
Times
person.
article about it because it was really good, and they went in depth. But it's just so crazy. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I think it's fascinating. Like,
Well, and somebody was telling me about this, and then was like, it's crazy to think that I thought this only kind of stuff only happened in movies, and I was like, do you not realize that like we are literally in the spying game every day of our lives? The only nations that we're not spying on, and I put not spying on in heavy air quotes, are the Five Eyes, which is Australia, New Zealand, England, us, and Germany, and we promise.
well, but then there
I
was
feel
the
like
whole
France is in there too. But we promised not to spy on each other and to share intel. And then there was the whole thing about us tapping into Angela Merkel's phone. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying, heavy air quotes, not spying on each other. Usually we share intel and don't spy on each other. But we literally spy on everyone else. There's a reason why there's a CIA. And they're in the business of foreign intelligence. And they're... So, I mean... We're in the business of spying, and it's not always like a spy movie or a spy novel, but it's definitely something we do all the time. So I don't know, keep our assets safe. Don't turn to the dark side.
Yeah, because like the CIA doesn't know what happened to these operatives in China. Like they've just disappeared. They've stopped answering phones, stopped meeting up at locations, and they're presumed to be in a prison somewhere and or probably dead. So it's really scary stuff.
Yeah.
So once again, go read other news articles about it that can get you way more information. And I know specifically that the New York Times had like a good in-depth article, like detailing the timeline and everything. So go read that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to come a little bit closer to home and talk about Mitt Romney because...
like literally in our backyard.
Mr. Romney has spoken this week at two large, high-profile Utah conferences. The first was like an economic conference. The second was a Silicon Slopes conference. And I had a fleeting suspicion that he was maybe going to announce
you said something about
his run because like that's a big platform. There's already going to be a lot of journalists there.
Right.
You've got a captive audience. It seemed like the perfect place to announce.
You don't have a golden escalator though.
Yeah, well, we can't all we can't all have a Trump Tower now, can we?
That's true. But he didn't, did he?
No.
He didn't announce.
He didn't. He basically, someone at the Silicon Slopes one, at the beginning of his little interview, they straight up asked him, like, the first question, do you have anything to announce before we get started? And he said, no, I won't be announcing anything.
He has to announce before filing deadlines, so I don't know.
But that's not till like
deadline
March.
is, but...
I've heard that in Utah it's not till March, so theoretically he could wait until March. But sources say, supposedly, and news articles keep getting written that he's planning on running. He's like getting together a ground game and staff and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Also, at these conferences, he talked like he was a candidate, especially at the economic one. He talked a lot of policy and was like talking like he was running without saying that he was running.
I still don't know how I feel about Mitt Romney for senator. I don't know. I think we've talked about this, that I don't trust what he would do like he's an opponent of Trump right now, but I don't know how he would act as senator. Okay. Yeah. Well, the last story, and it's kind of the biggest one, is that we're hitting up against a budget deadline for the government again. Literally tonight at midnight Eastern, and it is currently 11:33 p.m. Eastern. Oh, man. Okay.
Crazy.
So by midnight tonight, the government Eastern time, the government meaning Congress, has to pass a budget resolution, either continuing resolution or an actual budget. But at this point, it's probably going to be a continuing resolution of some sort, unless they can figure out some sort of miracle to make a budget. I saw that Corker is talking about a short-term continuing resolution that would keep the government open for a shorter amount of time than the month that was originally proposed. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. So last Thursday, we talked about Trump's comments in the White House to the bipartisan group that had put together an immigration reform that could be attached to this budget resolution, because the Democrats and some Republicans said that they aren't going to pass any continuing resolution or any budget that doesn't solve for the DACA problem, which, if you remember, the DACA problem is that Trump discontinued the deferred action for childhood arrivals for those who came illegally and have grown up here and don't know really any other countries and are trying to get their act together, and so they're registered in the DACA program, and then they are given a visa or they're given an opportunity to actually pursue an education, to pursue jobs, to work here legally, that kind of thing. So they want a long-term solution to that, whether that be like a path to citizenship or a long-term solution that's through Congress, whatever it is. And then the other thing that needed to be in this was the reauthorization of the CHIP program, which is the Childhood Insurance Program or whatever.
Children's Health Insurance
Program, I think is what the acronym is. Right. So those two things for Democrats specifically were really important, and they needed to make it into this bill. So the immigration thing, there was a bipartisan group that got together. They came up with a bill. They took it to the president, who said that who sounded like he was on board with it. They took it on Thursday. The meeting on Thursday resulted in this whole terrible word that Trump used to refer to countries like Haiti, African countries, and what's the other one? El Salvador, right. So he used that terrible word. Lots of people responded, including the African countries, which were like, hey dude, slavery. That statement is one worth reading again. I'm just trying to buzz through this though, so I would go read that. But they were like, slavery. The thing about this though, that he made that comment on Alexander Hamilton's birthday, who Alexander Hamilton is from Haiti. And then we were embroiled in this like whole thing all over Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. Mm-hmm. And then on Martin Luther King Jr. Day and on Sunday, I have it written in my journal twice. I do a little news moment in my journal, and I have it written twice that Trump says, I am not a racist. I'm like, if you have to say that, something wrong with this picture, okay? So that the whole weekend was spent embroiled in this, like, Trump said, what now? Which means that nothing got done on immigration policy. So we reached the beginning of this week, back from Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We're back from that. The Congress is back in session, and they're rushing to meet a deadline, right? They have to reach some sort of continuing resolution or some sort of budget by midnight tonight. So they're working and working and working, but Trump has effectively killed any immigration policy that would work. So yesterday, the House got some sort of continuing resolution put together that would extend the budget talks until, would keep the government open until February 16th, when they'd have to visit it again. And it included CHIP, but it didn't include something that would solve for CHIP, and it would keep CHIP for the next 6 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But it didn't include anything on DACA. Okay. So then so they passed that by a margin of like 230 to 196 or something like that. Those aren't the right numbers. I think the 230 is, but the other isn't. Okay. So House passes a resolution. Then it gets bumped to the Senate. So today, the Senate has been saying, and some Republicans in the Senate, so they have to reach a number of 60. So the Democrats by themselves could have blocked this continuing resolution because they had to get 60 votes, and the Republicans only have 51 votes in the Senate. But there also were Republicans that weren't on board with this, especially since DACA has to be taken care of by March 5th. Like, they have to get something done by March 5th in order. Otherwise, it completely goes away. And then immigration can do anything because we've got the information of these dreamers. And because we've got their information, it's likely we also have information leading us to other families. Okay, so there's all this, like, immigration is a sticky subject, whatever. So at 10 p.m. tonight, Eastern Standard Time, so 8 p.m. in the West, in the Mountain Standard, whatever we are right now, the Senate held a vote, and the continuing resolution did not pass. So it looks like we're hurtling towards shutdown in 20 minutes. And I just saw something about Corker saying that, well, we'll try and get a short-term resolution, but they would have to get this continuing resolution, whatever it is, and however short it is, they would have to get it through both the Senate and the House by midnight tonight, otherwise the government shuts down.
Wow.
So it looks like the last government shutdown was in 2013.
Oh, that was dumb.
And the last time the government shut down, when one party was in charge of everything, the Senate, the Congress, and the White House, and I guess the judicial system too, whatever. But the last time we had a shutdown that was like that was the Reagan administration. I think. There was something else in... Oh, and the last time that Congress passed a budget on time was 1996. Like, just like all of this stuff. But...
So, there's some interesting things going on Twitter, and MSNBC is tweeting 1 hour and 15 minutes till government shutdown. 1 hour, 30 minutes until government shutdown. Like, dun dun dun.
Yeah.
And then the GOP, the RNC's Twitter account is like, they're calling it the hashtag Schumer shutdown. So they're totally trying to paint it as the Democrats' fault, and as specifically Chuck Schumer's fault for blocking this, which may or may not pay off in their favor in the end. It's hard to say because, like you said, it could be seen as, well, no, the Republicans have both the presidency and the Congress. Why are you blaming the minority party? Yeah. But it could be argued either way, but they're tweeting, the GOP is now tweeting at individual senators and saying the clock is ticking. Are you willing to put the hashtag Schumer shutdown ahead of our troops and vulnerable children? And
well, and
the
thing is,
senators.
Yeah. So my friend is interning for a House, Republic. What am I trying to say? A congressman right now, and she's like at Senate. Just tell me if I have a job on Monday or not, so I can go to bed. So, but the thing is here too is that you can paint, like, this is really the story you're gonna get is the story of the party you listen to, because the Democrats are blaming this on the Republicans. The other thing,
it is a very partisan thing.
Yes, it's very partisan. The last shutdown happened in 2013, right? And this one was a result of healthcare stuff, and this was, they were trying so hard to get this to not happen, to have a shutdown not happen. And it happened in 2013, and the next election was in 2014. And right after the shutdown, I think it was the Democrats that were seen in a bad light. No, it was the Republicans that were seen in a bad light. The Republicans were blamed for the shutdown. But a year later, when the elections came around, it was the Democrats who ended up losing those seats. So the Democrats are kind of playing this long game where they're like, well, if we shut down now and we do our best to information campaign that this was actually the Republicans' fault, then by the time elections come around in November, then maybe they'll see that, like, this cohesive government that, like, controls all of the government isn't able to even keep the government open. And the thing about a government shutdown is it shuts down a whole lot of people and doesn't pay a lot of people. So, like, national parks, museums,
well, I've been
security forces.
Seeing that the national parks are going to be open this time.
Oh, really?
In 2013, the parks were closed.
Yeah.
And that ticked a ton of people off because it ruined people's vacation. And the Republicans got blamed for it. And it went really badly in their favor against them.
Right.
So, like, imagine, planning this nice big trip to, I don't know, Arches National Park or Yellowstone National Park, and you go and it's like, sorry, closed, because the government can't decide on funding. Like,
but see, that's really effective because, I mean, you're being, when you do a government shutdown and you still keep the national parks open, that's really unfair to the people who are working without pay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't really, I'm sure they would back pay them.
Yeah.
But that's a mess.
So what I've been able to gather is, so the national parks will be open, but with, like, bare bones staff. The Postal Service will remain fully functional because it gets its money from selling stamps and other items. Like, it's self-funding. Like, the military and, like, essential operations will continue. So the fact that, like, the GOP is claiming, like, you're putting this above our troops is kind of a dumb idea. But at most government agencies, a lot of employees will be furloughed.
Right.
And it's just it's the bare bones essential staff.
It's critical staff, and that's it, pretty much.
So, yeah.
So that's exciting. So we'll keep an eye on that. We may be sans government next week. Well, not sans government.
No, we'll still have government.
We'll have
just sans funding.
Sans funding, right. And most of the people not going to work. Even in a government shutdown, congressmen have to go to work because they're the only way to open it again.
Well, interesting you brought that up. Members of Congress still get paid during a shutdown because their salary is not through appropriations.
Oh, man.
Their salary is already codified into a different law. So, of course, they don't care. As far as them personally, like, it doesn't matter to them. They still get paid. Like,
right, but their
how stupid is
staffers don't
that?
get paid. And
I know, but I think they would be a lot more motivated if their salaries were directly tied to that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But of course,
they've
they're
been
not.
putting this off for months. They have been putting this off for simply months, and it's like, this is no longer. We're no longer stonewalling you. You can't make. The thing is, I mean, people see it emotionally, like, and in the moment, that this is the fault of the congressman or whatever. But the problem is, like, they've been stonewalling and pushing this off because we can't agree about money, and it's like you're implementing about money. You're implementing tax reforms, but you can't figure out how to pay for the government. Anyway, whatever. We'll keep an eye on it. Instead, we're going to move on to our soapbox for this week. So, we've talked about in the past the fan-made movie Voldemort: Origins of the Heir. I think it's been a while since we've talked about it.
Yeah, it has been a while.
They released it this week. Well, I guess it was last week.
Recently, yeah.
Recently, and so we sat down and watched it this evening.
Yeah, and it was okay.
It was, yeah. Somebody percolated on that fan theory for a really long time. Like, they were thinking about the way that they strung together this, like, huge story and, like, tied it all together. It's fascinating. Like, somebody had to have been thinking about that for a long time.
Yeah. I don't like how they framed the story. They framed it, like, under the guise that, like, the Soviets came in possession of Tom Riddle's diary. I'm like,
not sure how that happened.
No, like, that just doesn't flow at all with the Harry Potter world. Like, the Soviets, like, now you gotta make it, like, Cold War.
But it wouldn't.
No.
Yeah, it would have been Cold War. You're right. But
like, that just rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, and the other thing was that, like, they had Veritaserum, like
an IV. Like, pumping into her like an IV.
Yeah, it was weird. The other thing that was, but really, it was kind of a fascinating story. But then beyond that, they really struggled with syncing words and mouths.
The dubbing was
it
awful. The mouths moving and the sound coming out was not synced up, and it drove me nuts.
No.
I hate it when that happens.
I know. And then the way that the sound was, like, projected.
Yeah.
It was weird.
It was really loud
and sounded like it was coming from not where the person was standing in the room. It sounded like if you were facing the screen and you were in one part of the room and they were in another part of the room, it still sounded like their voice was coming from your part of the room. It was weird. But overall, I thought it was pretty well made for a fan-made movie.
Yeah.
It ends kind of strangely. With a twist that you're like, no.
Yeah, the twist is good.
I liked the twist.
But then, like, it just kind of ended and I was like, that's it? Like,
what are you
over?
doing? We looked up and the credits were rolling. But it really was... It drew in actual canon bits that you don't really think about. Like Hepzibah Smith.
Yeah, it really went all in with her. So it was released for free on YouTube. That was part of their agreement with Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling. And it already has 10 million views. So, I mean, people are watching it.
Yeah.
You don't get to 10 million views on YouTube easily.
No, you do not. I have been campaigning to get TED videos over 1,000. So, but it's an okay movie. It's like you have to remember that it is a fan-made movie.
Yeah, this is not Warner Brothers who have, multi-million-dollar budget at their disposal. So for a fan-made film, it's I'd give it a B.
It's a decent one. There's a fight scene at the very beginning, and there's like times when you feel like you're in a video game.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
That was weird.
Sometimes you felt like you were playing from her perspective, or I felt like I was playing a video game that I would usually play, where I'm just lost and I can't see the action. I can just hear it and kind of see sparks every so often because I don't know how to make this thing work and turns towards the action. So there were some sequences like that, and then there were some sequences where you feel like you're the first person video game player. So yeah. I really did feel like that first fight sequence was me playing a video game. So
nice.
Yeah. It's a thing.
So there you have it. We previewed it for you. You
Yeah.
can make your own decision if you're going to watch it.
Yeah.
It is only 52 minutes long, so that's nice. You not have to commit to a 2-hour ordeal.
Right.
So kudos to them for making that choice.
Also, Tom Riddle wears some pretty interesting eyeliner.
Yeah, he does.
just some really interesting eyeliner going on there. All right. Well, thank you for listening to our 1-year anniversary episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe it's been a year.
I know, right?
And we will probably see you next week.
Bye-bye.